Hey loves, it's Amber and welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, hi, hello, welcome, and welcome back to Cast. Today we are creating a new family for my legacy save file. So in the last episode of the New Horizons Let's Play challenge, we did host a gold level neighborhood potluck event. And for that challenge, every gold level event allows you to invite a new family to the village. So these are going to be the newest residents of our New Horizons village, and this is the Low Wyatt family. As far as inspiration for this family, I actually picked out a house first. So, y'all know I'm not a builder, so I hopped on the gallery and I was looking for kind of like cute cottage homes, but I wanted to do something a little bit on the larger side. So, I found a lot that had two double beds, a toddler room, and then upstairs it had a room with two single beds. And so I wanted to have a family that kind of fit with that bedding structure. And I love a good multi generational family. I just think it's nice to have several generations of Sims living in the same household. So I decided to start with a grandmother, and she is, of course, an elder. So this is the mother to our next Sim. So her daughter is the wife, and this is her mother. So this is Miss Elizabeth Lowe. She has the Master Chef aspiration. She is self-assured, wise, and macabre. So Elizabeth, or Liz, as she is known to her friends, has lived, a little bit of an eclectic life. When she was younger, she was a stay-at-home wife. Her husband went out and worked, and she was raising their two kids, which the one she lives with is the youngest of her two children. So she was raising her two kids, but her husband actually died in a tragic work accident. He was traveling for work and got into an accident, and he didn't survive. And so Liz was kind of thrust into trying to figure out how to take care of two children when she had just been at home this whole time. But being the self-assured girl that she is, she was able to take skills that she developed at home and use those in the workforce. So of course, as a stay-at-home wife, she was home doing all the cooking, the cleaning, all that fun traditional stuff. But she'd really developed a love and a passion for cooking and had really come up with a style of cuisine that was all her own. And so she initially started like kind of a small catering company and was able to kind of branch out. She's written quite a few cookbooks, so she still gets royalties for those. And that's kind of helped her to be able to take care of her family and honestly have a little bit of a sizable nest egg as well. So this family's fairly well off. They do live in what is by far the largest home in our little village. And there's a few reasons for that, not just Liz, but both of the parents are also relatively well off. They've been able to do well for themselves. So this family is a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit fancier than the other families in town. You know that like our initial family are farmers and they kind of work their way from the ground. So this seems a little bit different, but I kind of like that. I like the idea of having a little bit more of a prestigious family in the village. And they have a little bit of a story for why they're here, but we'll get to that when we get to the next two Sims. So, Liz, I was pretty inspired by the Life and Death pack. I love kind of the aesthetic of this pack. I kind of landed on this Life and Death hair, which is honestly probably one of my favorite hairs in the game. I will admit, this is actually not the hair that she ends up with. I end up changing her hair to one that came with Adventure Awaits, I think, because at the time when I made these Sims, that pack had kind of just come out. It's been a little while since I've made these Sims. And also, I couldn't really think of another time in which I would use this hair. It feels very elder coded to me. So I decided I would use it for our girl, Liz. But I was definitely inspired by the Life and Death pack. And it's also part of why I ended up making her macabre. I just thought that it kind of fit. And I just love kind of the aesthetic and vibe. As I typically do, most of my Sims kind of have a little bit of a color palette that I'm working with when I'm creating them. And so Liz is more of like the browns, yellows, kind of neutrally tones, which I think look really good. And then I also wanted to make sure that I was properly accessorizing. I don't always accessorize my Sims like I want to, so I wanted to make sure that I actually did do that for her. Initially, I randomized her traits, but I decided that I would go through and actually pick them just so I could make sure her that she really kind of had the vibe that I wanted for her. I also realized at this point that I didn't have any like skin details on her, so I went ahead and popped some of those on her. I did want this to be like a low CC, no CC fam. So I am using like skin details that come in the game, but like I would like to add like scars and some additional wrinkles and things like that. So this is Liz's daughter. This is Miss Katie. And her last name is still Lowe, I believe, even though she is married. She doesn't have her husband's last name, but it's fine. It happens. I actually am married and have my maiden name as well. So Katie's a little bit of an independent girly pop, so it's part of why she didn't change her name, and her husband's chill with it. It doesn't bother him at all. So I'm going through giving her some hairs. I did make her, I believe she's an adult, and that's why I wanted to go ahead and give her a little bit more like wrinkles. You can see she has like wrinkles on her forehead. Additionally, when I was trying on hairs for her is when I realized that I wanted to change Liz's hair, so I went ahead and did that. But Katie is a Renaissance sim. She is an overachiever. She is competitive and she is generous. So she's a little bit of an intense girl, I think. She's sweet and she wants the best for everyone around her, but she's a little bit intense. That overachiever is something that she's really kind of focused on and been struck with. She's really inspired by her mom's story and seeing her mom like really build their family and take care of them, and she wants to always be able to do that if she needed to. She never wants to be reliant on someone else. She wants to be able to feel that kind of fierce independence. She's very fiercely independent. um and I think that sometimes it kind of gets in the way of her relationships. She also is kind of a very polished girl. So you'll see kind of when I'm making her aesthetic, it's a lot of businesses and hobbies, and the chic kit, I believe is which one it is. It's definitely one of the creator kits. I think maybe it's the one with by Sente. I can't remember, but I definitely want to give her kind of that like businessy, business casual aesthetic. I honestly love this vibe, and this kit is like so much fun, so I love to use it. And so I just think it fit with Katie really well and kind of the vibe that she has. I was also able to use this hair from Life and Death, which I like never use because not the biggest fan of the baby bangs, but I feel like she's got bangs in her every day. So like it kind of blends. I know that those bangs probably wouldn't turn into these bangs, but like you got to suspend your disbelief just a little bit here to make this work. And she's kind of in a green and brown vibe, even though her everyday is blue. I wanted to do green for her, but I'm obsessed with the pants that she's wearing from her everyday fit, the ones from Businesses and Hobbies. Obsessed with those pants. And that particular swatch is my favorite, so I just used it. But otherwise, she's mostly wearing green. Like I said, I always create my Sims based on a color palette. I don't know why. It's just easier for me to do that. It's kind of what my brain defaults to. I know that's literally not how real humans dress, but it's The Sims, so it's fine. As far as Katie, her and her husband have a little bit of an interesting relationship. When we get to Jared, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. I don't know that I think that their traits and their personalities really match. They've been together for a long time, though. They've been together since they were in high school. So they've been dating since they were teens. They broke up for a little bit during kind of like the college years, but they got back together pretty quickly, and they've been together this whole time. And even though like on the outside they don't necessarily seem to be the most logical couple, they are very happy together. So who are we to judge? Sometimes you can't judge a relationship based on what you can see from the outside. And if Katie and Jared like it, then I absolutely love it. So with that being said, like I said, Katie's a little bit intense. And she maybe made some enemies in their last town because she's so competitive. She was kind of trying to be the top of everything, and it maybe rubbed some people the wrong way. And so with this move, part of what they were looking for is kind of something smaller, a little bit quieter, maybe something to ease Katie's spirit just a little bit. and kind of prevent her from being as intense as she can be at times, just to kind of bring their family into a little bit more normalcy, because she can put a lot of pressure on herself, on her husband, and on her kids in a way that I think was negatively impacting their family's experience. And so, because of that, they wanted to move somewhere a little bit smaller, a little bit quieter, where people maybe didn't know her and didn't know some of the things that maybe she's done in her life. She is or was a practicing lawyer. I'm not sure what they're going to do now that they're out in the New Horizons village, but I'm sure they'll find something that they can do. Katie does have quite a few kind of creative hobbies that she enjoys. She does cross stitch and knitting, so maybe she'll do something like that while they're here. Additionally, they do have quite a bit of money that they just kind of saved up over time, so they don't necessarily have to do anything just yet. And then, of course, we do have Jared. So, this is her husband, Mr. Jared Wyatt. He has the neighborhood confidant aspiration. He is outgoing, he is nosy, and he is cheerful. So Jared's the sort of sim that like everyone just loves. He has like a little baby face, which I also think is very cute, because Katie has a little bit more of like a mature face. I think she looks a little bit older than her age, whereas I think Jared looks a little bit younger. And so it's kind of also something that's kind of people have always commented on. People kind of assume that she's older than him, but Jared actually is a little bit older. They're basically the same age, but he's like a month older than her. So I thought that's kind of cute. And then I also wanted to go ahead and give her some scars, like some stretch marks and some, I think maybe I just did stretch marks because I think, obviously she has 3 children, so she carried those children. And if you've ever been pregnant, stretch marks are almost unavoidable. So, anyways, back to Jared. He's a pretty relaxed, kind of chill, outgoing guy. He's a lot of fun, and most people really enjoy kind of spending time with him. People definitely like to confide in him. And Jared's another reason why maybe they had to leave their old town, because he loves having people confide in him. He loves hearing other people's business. I mean, he is nosy after all, and he's a writer. So, strangely enough, some of the things that people told him, they appeared in some of his stories, and people sort of get a little bit suspicious. How are these stories? They feel very familiar. So Jared maybe caused some problems in their last neighborhood, and he's promised to turn over a new leaf, but I'm not entirely sure that I believe him. Like I said, the relationship might seem a little bit strange, but Katie and Jared definitely have things to talk about. He loves to gossip, and our girl Katie doesn't mind hearing other people's business either, especially when she can compare herself to them, and Jared can find out that she's maybe doing better. So, if she had a competitor that was at a different law firm, maybe was going to get a case, sometimes Jared would just like go down to the local bar and see what he could find out, maybe get a little bit of dirty tea on people, found out about different affairs. Maybe some people did some not so ethical things to get into their positions. And he would just provide that information to Katie, and it would make some of her judgments go a little bit easier. So I'm not saying they were blackmailing people, but that's something nosy Sims can do. So we'll just leave it at that. And so Jared and Katie, like I said, they get along really well. Their relationship is pretty strong in the basis that that's something they both enjoy. And so while from the outside people or some people kind of interpret that their relationship doesn't quite match or their personalities don't match, they definitely have a lot in common and a lot that they like to share with each other. So for him, as per usual, color palettes kind of went with like neutral colors. I thought that those would be nice. Also, I think at the time that I made this sim, this hair had just been released, and I thought this hair was like really nice. I'm really glad that they're, taking steps to improve the amount of representation that we have in the game when it comes to hair textures and hair types. So I wanted to use this hair for Jared, and I think he turned out cute. I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite male Sims. I honestly think that he has a little bit more of a babyish face than I intended for him to, but I really don't know what to do about that. So that's just kind of how he is. I decided to let him be, and I thought it was okay because he looked different from some of my other Sims. So I was content to let him have like a little bit of a younger look. And now we're creating the first of their twins. This is Gabriella. And as you can see, whenever I'm making Sims or like child Sims, I like to look at them as teens first, just so I can make sure that when they age up, they're not going to look like Mortimer Goth. If you know, you know, especially the new version, since they made him over. The new version of Mortimer Goth is terrible when he's aged up. It's very obvious that they never checked what he would look like when he aged up. So I always look at them and then age them down. So this is Gabriella. She is the oldest of the two twins. She has the slumber party animal aspiration and she is creative. She's just our little creative queen. Between her grandmother and her grandmother's love for cooking and her father's love for writing, she loves kind of all the creative arts. She really likes baking and cooking with her grandmother, and she loves like kind of storytelling. It's one of the things she loves about slumber parties is like telling scary stories and making things up and doing all that kind of stuff. So she's the very outgoing of the two of them. She just kind of loves that kind of aspect of life. So for her, I wanted her outfits to be kind of colorful and bright because she is our little creative girl. So I went with a lot of like pink, vibrant, patterned clothing, which isn't unusual for me for my child Sims. I did also do a lot of red, which is pretty unusual for me. But I think she turned out really cute, and we'd also just gotten those pajamas, so I had to use those. I think she turned out cute, and I think that she's going to be interesting as she ages up. I kind of see her being a little similar to her father and maybe some of the more messier aspects of her personality, but we'll see. Maybe not. She could just end up being really competitive like her mother, and maybe her brother will be a little bit more of like a quiet, messy, sneaky type. We'll see. They're just children now, so there's definitely a lot of space for their personalities to grow and develop, and for us to see what kind of Sims they're going to be while they're in the village. And as kind of more people move into town, we'll also see kind of if they develop relationships with any of the Sims that we have. So in our main household, we do have an infant now. So it's probably not very likely that she'll spend a ton of time with like Gabriella or her brother Liam, though she could spend some time with their younger sister who is a toddler. I think that kind of age range for them will overlap quite a bit more. So now we're moving on to the second twin. This is Liam, and he's got the cool kid on the block aspiration as well as goofball. So he's also pretty outgoing. He kind of thinks of life as a joke. He's like literally the opposite of his grandmother. And sometimes he gets on his grandmother's nerves. She loves him to pieces, but he doesn't take anything seriously. And it's definitely a little bit of a struggle for his mom. Both the women in the family can struggle with him a little bit because he just, everything's a joke to Liam. And his dad thinks it's cute. He loves spending time with him. He has kind of like a similar little aesthetic and vibe to his father, and that's kind of who he wants to be when he gets older. He wants to be like his dad, except as far as writing, he definitely is leaning more towards like a comedy style, but in general, he's just a goof. His sister's a little bit more serious, but Liam, he just likes to have fun. He struggled a little bit with the move because he liked kind of all his friends where he was, and having kind of more options for being the life of the party and having a lot of fun. But he is okay with it. I mean, again, everything's kind of a joke. So the move is just another thing for him to get used to. He's made a lot of jokes about it, whereas his sister's kind of huffed and fussed about it. Liam just kind of made jokes and just kind of takes everything as it comes to him. For his color scheme, we went for like green. He mostly wears camo, as you can see. We have that kit that Urban Sims worked on. I can't remember what it's called, but it was like a kind of contemporary child sim kit. It was before the creator kit, so it was when they were just like working with Sims creators to create the kits or kind of help give the ideas for the kits. But I thought that that was really cute, and I loved that vibe for him, so I think he turned out really cute. And then last but not least, we have our toddler sim. So this is Sloan, and she's a little charmer. There's really not that much to say about Sloan. She's a toddler. We don't really know who she's going to be just yet, but this is the sim that I think will come up in the Let's Play probably the most, as I see her potentially being a friend for Sunny, because our little Sunny will be aging up to a toddler soon. I did go ahead and set relationship dynamics for everyone just because I thought that that would be good. We have that added to the game, so it's something that I wanted to make sure that I was incorporating. And even for my toddler sims, I start as teens because, again, I don't want to get later into the series and Sloan is Sunny's best friend and she's got a look to her. I did age her back up into a teen because Sloane's eyes are huge, and I was trying to figure out if that was like if they were really big as a teen, but I don't think they are. I think they're just really big as a toddler. But yeah, for Sloan, I just went with something real cutesy. She wears a lot of pink. I imagine that her mom's dressing her and she just likes that very cute aesthetic, but I think she turned out really good. While I'm finishing up with Sloan, I do want to say I know that it's been kind of a while since I've posted videos, and I know that content is pretty slow. I am currently on maternity leave, so I'm home, but I don't have a ton of time because I obviously have a newborn. But I do want to try to get back into the swing of posting some content over the next couple of months. So let me know if there's any particular videos you want to see down below. I do want to get back into our New Horizons legacy, so let me know what you think about this family and if you're looking forward to seeing them incorporated into the gameplay. Also, make sure to let me know which one of the family members is your favorite. If you do want to download them, they will be available on the gallery under my ID of Simbersanders, same way that it is spelled here on YouTube. I believe they shouldn't have any custom content, but if you don't see them, just go ahead and check that box. Sometimes the game just flags that I have custom content because I do have defaults in my game, and I do have mods that are just kind of in my cast, so sometimes that always generates that all my families are modded. But I hope that you enjoyed this video. I appreciate each and every one of you who takes a little bit of time out of your day to hang out with me. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you all next time. Bye!